he that's in you than he that is in the world. In other words, there's something so much more powerful inside of me that don't make sense when I can be going through a hellacious instance and still have a smile on my face. It makes no sense why somebody can stab me on the back and I can turn around and instead of begrudging my enemies, I can speak good about them, because in reality what the enemy don't understand is that there's something way, way down on my inside that regardless of what happens on my outside, I have something that can keep me stable, steadfast, unmovable, incorruptible, and keep me going. Is anybody with me? Can you just survey your own life in 15 seconds and just look back on how that other people lost things and went through situations just like you, and for whatever reason you came out better on the other side than they did? Could it be because you've got something shut way up down on the inside of you that the enemy can't get to? And let me just say it like the song used to say, the world didn't give it and the world can't take it away, right? Because there's something down. I wish somebody that knew what that something was, that understood what it's like to have Holy Ghost power inside of you that causes you to get up every day and go through a mediocre job where you're not appreciated and more demands is placed on you than people are that are patting you on the back, but you can go through the motions and still find a way to come here on Wednesday night with your back hurting and your mind tired, and you know you got to get up and do it again in 9 more hours, and the kids still got homework, but through the process you're just happy to be here, and you've got that grin on your face like you know what, I just have a feeling everything's going to be all right. It's because there's something down on the inside of you. Are you with me tonight? It's so important to know that, because Isaiah 40:31 says it to us like this. You probably know it. We could all quote it together. Let's read it though. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, right? They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. So now I understand what we were reading in 1 Corinthians. Now I recognize why we have to produce something. Because what happens is, as we begin to wait on God like a waiter does on a table and bring God what he desires and produces what he desires through the process, he renews the inner core of strength for us. Because remember, it's not the external things that our strength lies in, but it's the internal thing. That's where the strength is. So that's what happens, is that because we're rooted and grounded, God says you must produce, but through the process, God says, I'm never going to allow you to do anything that I don't give it back to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So for everything you do to me, let me do it like this. Let me do 100 times back to you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Well, I'll cause men to give back unto you. Just like the prayer of Jabez, that I will cause your tent curtains to be stretched out. In other words, I will enlarge the place of your territory, the place of your domain, the place that you have authority in. In other words, you may be just a blue-collar worker this year, but locked up inside of you is management potential. And if you just keep producing, if you stay steadfast and stable and unmovable and uncorruptible, and you're just doing what God told you to do, and you're producing, God says, I have to renew the strength to keep you going. And as I do that, I cannot touch anything and make it stay the same, but everything I touch has to grow and has to prosper, because I'm God, and besides me there is no other. So when I touch your life and cause the life source to flow through to you, what happens is that you become uncomfortable staying status quo. You become uncomfortable just being normal, and you've got to break outside of the box, because you recognize that there's much more potential inside of you. I wish I had somebody that knew God's word calling you to go somewhere with your life further than where you've been the past 10 years. Not to say that that's not a great thing, not to say that those 10 years aren't a wonderful testimony to your life, but I want to talk to somebody that realizes that, guess what? The latter was promised to be greater than the former rain in my life. In other words, the latter part of my life was guaranteed by God that I could do double for my trouble through the process. And I'm looking for some people that realizes every time I reach out and help somebody else, what I'm doing is I'm making God liable to make my dreams come true, because I'm making their dreams come true. So even if it doesn't look like anything's happening on the outside, it's all right, because there's something stirring down on my inside. He's renewing my strength. He's renewing it. So you can cut me, you can stab me, you can poke me, try to take away from me, but you can't get to the source of my strength. Just like Samson, you may cut my hair and temporarily set me back. Even my hair will begin to grow, but long before the hair ever grew back, there was something down inside of Samson that said, guess what? You still have a moment coming. So for somebody that's ever lost anything, or ever had something separated from you, or has ever messed up so bad and let go of all the secrets in your life that you shouldn't have, and somebody used those and played those cards against you, and you got dealt the wrong hand and cheated and all that good stuff, God still has a plan for you, because even though you may lose things on the outside, you can't lose what you've got on the inside. We're talking about a palm tree. Point 3, is palm trees, unlike any other tree, they bend, but they can't break. They bend, but they can't break. If you look at the makeup of the tree and the way that its DNA is written and the codes internally, it's designed because that root system goes so far down that regardless of how strong the wind blows, that the tree is designed to bend with the wind but not break. And it's actually proven that they've actually documented with video footage where they've seen palm trees laying completely flat on the ground. And whenever they began to look at these trees afterwards, they noticed something different happened because as the tree was stretched, somebody say stretch. And I had a mentor tell me one time, people are like rubber bands. They're really not any good or useful unless they're stretched. And so we're talking about the palm tree being stretched. That as the tree is stretched, its bark will shift and move. And you remember those Chinese finger traps? Did everybody have one of those? And I only got out of them with a pair of scissors. That's the only way I could do it. And that's why one finger is shorter than the other. Not really. I'm just kidding you tonight. I wanted you to smile. But I've noticed just like those things, the reason they're powerful is because the fibers are made to bend and move and twist. And you can stick your fingers in that thing. And if you try to pull at the same time, you're stuck for the reason because the fabric knows how to shift in the right places. And it's proven just like the palm tree and the Chinese finger trap, by nature, by God's design, this bark will begin to shift and just like a special fabric, it begins to move in the right places to enable the tree to bend but not break. And the amazing thing is this stretching of the fabric of the tree, that whenever it returns to its original position, those fabric pieces never go back in the same place because they were stretched. And just like God, if He ever stretches you, you can't go back to the way you used to be. I got to just stop that right there, because if God ever breaks you out in your mind, you can never go back to living a normal life because He stretched you and you just don't fit there anymore because you've been stretched. And what happens to the fabric of the tree is that it finds a new place of residence, and it's even proven that it causes the tree to grow just a little bit. And it may not be just a whole lot, but it's just enough just to be able to measure and recognize that growth occurred. The amazing thing is not only does growth occur, but new fabrics, it begins to grow and develop, and the tree becomes stronger. Now, I'm trying to preach it like I feel it tonight, so you're going to have to help me in receiving it tonight. But every time the winds blow through your life, it may bend you over, but it does not have the power to break you because there's something so much stronger down inside of you. But God refuses to allow anything to happen that He can't turn it around and use it for your good. So He says, what I will do is I will allow the wind to blow you over but not blow you off course. And through the process, when you do set back up and the wind subsides, you'll find growth in your life, and you'll recognize that through the process you become stronger. Is anybody hearing me at all? That if the winds are blowing, you should lift your hands and recognize that it's for a reason. And I recognize that Jesus was on the boat with the disciples, and the wind began to blow, and they got discouraged and they got scared and thought they would lose their life. And they woke Jesus up from his sleep, and He made a statement. He said, "Peace, be still." He didn't speak to the winds. He didn't speak to the rain. Contrary to every sermon you've ever heard, He never once told the storm to stop, because He recognized that when the storm did stop, it has blown them much further along and they could have traveled. And at the end of the story, you'll recognize that as long as they have their peace, it doesn't matter about the storm. As long as they recognize that if I have a peace, it passes all my understanding, that regardless of what blows, all it did is it got them to the other side quicker. I wish I had some people that had some storms blowing in your life that you could recognize, God, if I could just hold on to your peace for just a little while longer, I recognize that you're just trying to get me to where I need to go much faster while causing me to grow and making me stronger. Is anybody feeling me tonight? 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8 reads it to us like this. 2 Corinthians 4 and 8. Hallelujah. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. persecuted but not forsaken, cast down but not destroyed. Why can you make those statements and talk about being persecuted but not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed? It would have to be that you would recognize that when it's all over, you're going to be living a life different than what you went into before the storm. I'm not trying to say that your life is supposed to be void of storms or that it's going to be all storms, but I do want you to recognize that your God is much bigger than any storm. And through the process